Hey everyone, hope you're well. In this tutorial, we'll import this model into Substance Painter. Let's do a simple material setup, and then import it into Unreal Engine, and set up our material there. There are a few key points about this workflow we'll share here. That's because initially, our model is repeatable. So, different parts of the model keep repeating. We want to optimize UV on this model, and turn our model into repeating parts. And let's take those parts for texturing, and then repeat those parts until the model is complete, and then import it into Unreal Engine. So, first step is UV optimization. Our second stage happens in Painter software. That we entered texturing process it, and actually, let's do a normal texturing in UDIMs style. This method has its own challenges that we'll review together here, and finally, we'll review all this inside Unreal software, our material. Let's get off there, and I'll teach you how can we in Unreal Engine define our material accordingly. Let's have an animation here, so our lights can move. Alright, let's start with the first optimizing UV. Let's discuss repeatability. Let's talk. Well, look here, I'll choose this part now. If we look closely, we notice this choice we made here. It's repeating here once, it's repeating this time, and it's repeating here again, and even this shape itself. If we look at it logically, we can consider duration. If we have it, this half is enough for us. We're joining this section for car sharing, we're doing it, and then we use symmetry. We're actually building this half. And then we copy it in those three other Hey, we'll place this. So, what does this bring us? Consider this. That's how it looks here. Which actually repeats 3 times. If this is your UV space, well, it's planned, because it's also long now. For example, half your space come and occupy. When you use this method in technique, actually, come here. This half completely. Occupy it. Durate comes with just half. Consider half of it. And the rest of these parts, everyone overlaps. And get their info here. Which itself covers some issues. It adds to our work, and some things, as disadvantages. This method adds to our work. That we discuss these together. So, the overall plan and event, that'll happen here. It's like this, now you can do this with knowledge, because, sir, this task I'm doing, yeah, it optimized, yeah, there's plenty of space, saves it, right, my quality improves in some ways. But it causes repetition. Increase my Moodle level, and that's my model. Get out of that unique state. And if you know all this, you can decide, how do you do this? Well, I came for this model. I chose this method, and I created this structure here. Let's discuss this structure, let's talk about this here. Well, to better let's understand this I'm enlarging my bio board. A brief explanation of this model. Here, take this, don't mind it. Generally using the symmetry method, and overlap, it has a big flaw. That's if you want. For example, put 2 here, because it's becoming symmetrical, and that side, Moodle. Or, for example, this side of Moodle, exactly here. What happens is this. It takes reverse form. So, it's like that, and actually, that text too. Not home, it's mirrored. Well, this is the biggest flaw. Let's consider this method here. That all your textures have. Can you mirror it? And if you detail, be specific, like writing. So, let's start texting first. Hey, this is the part we call text. Text, so, that text you're writing. Hey, it's repeating. If you, say, scratch it. Added scratch here. Exactly, this repeats again, and mirrored too. Well, these are the downsides of this method. But this repetition happens. Somehow, it's among our blessings. When it comes to optimizing that text we're using here, duration, overall, we've understood the issues here. So, what did I do? I categorized my model. I mentioned that case, sir. Well, I know it's symmetry. This is actually the effect we have in a texture. I'll keep that in mind. So, what do? I'll take this model. This thing I've got here, I fully consider opinions, and then I'll come down, and actually, his head, I'm fully symmetrizing the model. Okay? Enough, this model is repeated here. But complete model it's not half a model. Or for example, for the part with cables here, that you see here. I didn't come for these cables, should I use symmetry? Why? since these cables are visible to us completely, and especially if the player, third person, come and look here. Well, when we symmetrize this too, on this detail, eyes notice this at first glance. So, this matter that we don't symmetrize some parts. To do this, at first glance, deceive the eye. That thing you're seeing, it's not symmetrical. It's not exactly symmetrical. Well, this is a technique we're using here, about these items here. Look at these things. They're on this side. Right? Maybe ask yourself, why is this model here? Don't just copy here. So, just keep this in that section. The reason is this: I consider this part unique. Can I give an example, a specific detail to use here? And when I bring these, I'll cut and move it there. Just try rearranging things. This model and this mop make that side unique, regarding this side of me. So, overall, the law being implemented here. Knowing this, well, what can we do? And what can't we do? Like adding those texts, labels that all get mirrored, or reuse again. During moduled trans with different formation, we can do many different things here. And now the decision I made here, it's like this. I like this part. I completely take it on, and I move in 4 directions, mirroring. Since they're large part and in larger sections, the models, it gets smaller. And some items come and settle. And I want to add some details. It's rarely seen, and honestly, is this even the place? Duration. I like specific details on my work. For the actual details, actually, the panel-like thing I have here, I painted these too, as I explained earlier. Now, we flip it and place it. Regarding the other matters we discussed, only this item remains here. See, this item here is exactly, so, what did I do? What I did was separate this. This is the bottom part. Why? Because when I'll have these in bake, in Paint software, first, very often. In this model, tiny detail, we face a problem. So, the line is clearly visible, be completely unique. Then, if I completely ignore it, my detail mirrors automatically. And it might trouble me. Alright, let's check UV. What did we do here with UV? I'm here, modify, I'll add that wrap, UV editor, just like here. See, I came via UDIMs. I used it because I wanted to. Teach me how to use UDIMs in Unreal. Use it, and next point. I wanted to mention this here. Well, you might be first. Tell me about these 2 UV types. Well, it affects the quality. Our work must improve. I intend to output here. That I get from Pinterest. 2 cents. You're okay, meaning my output. Finally, in Painter soft, you'll be fine, okay? When I'm taking 2 Toki cents, this means I could have done these too. Bring it input, duration, UV tile in 4K size, in Painter software output. Take it, and the quality I get, it's good and acceptable. But the point is this, consider 2 sets of tokens, consider a set, duration, either use Udemy or don't. It really depends on your goal. And here, I wanted to use Udemy. That UDIMs issued together. Let's explore in Unreal. I came here for 2 sets. I'll use this, collapsing it. Let's go ahead. Honor this model. This model when unpacked. I started my layout here. And if I come here to the UV editor. As you see, we're here. We have UV makeup. But if, for example, should I come here and pick this part? Do it for me. He's choosing all 4 sides. And UVs on each other. Being placed in information that I'll place it here, on each. Look at me. Well, this might be. Remember last year, knowing this? Who knew adding here? For example, labeled text or logo, it causes a mirror issue. How will you handle this? Solve it here. We use decals ahead. I'm talking about it now. We extract output from our model, for printer software. In my printer software first, I'm entering and doing it. And finally, I bring this model. Should I texture there? Let's check Painter software. Well, we're now in Painter software. We prepared this for Beck. And here, we click OK. Choose the UV tile workflow option. Let's activate it now. Here and now, we durate, we see DBU written 1002, meaning this. That we're now UDIMs. For this project, it's active. Alright, Entering the back, since we lack suitable models, I'll bring them here, and I set output size to 4K. I'll definitely enable the normal bent option. I select the anti-leasing option. And here, I select option B, until my baking process is done. Just before I do anything, here, I set the size to Toki until I see the result. Okay, not wanky. Alright, I'll choose option B until it's done. Then we continue our process. Well, our baking process. As you see, if I press B, can I switch channels using the keyboard? Check the mixed backup here. And everything feels cold. It's placed. How can we? Let's switch our original duration. We need to ensure the model is complete. The symmetry is done. And we clicked export to understand. And in viewport, let's release it here. Configuration project opens. Who clicks on OK? The model is fully integrated. And if I press B? As you see, all channels. They're sitting alone. Now, let's start the process. Material processing. For the process, material design, because I want emissive too. First thing I do is come in the settings section, here in the channel. I'm adding the ambient collagen too. Got the emissive. Now, all we need to do. Let's return to layers. Add a layer here. And type here, base. And for our business, all channels. We must clarify here. Well then. First thing I'll do here. This is to open a folder called base layer. That this actually is structure and metal properties. Duration, that I want to give my whole model. And then I'll focus here. Z is a plastic cover. I'm pulling it now. Creating a suitable mask. I'll show this metal cover. This plastic cover actually crushed and gone. That metal cover underneath. Duration, it's clear that same event happened. It happens in reality. For these model sites, I'll create a folder and name it. Refer to that example. And inside this underlayer, I'm using a smart material. I'm using it. Smart material I want to use. Smart material, dark age steel. This smart material. In the library, it's Pinterhip, so you don't need to download. Alright, I'll put this into underlayer. And as you see, we're feeling your impact now. We see, well, I'm coming to have a better corner. I turn off layers, then on one by one. Well, this layer's no particular problem here. This scratches layer affects edges. That here I'm like this. I see forms being created for each other. Well, this isn't what I'm seeking. So, I'll turn these off. First, I'll choose this. I'm starting scratch fine. A little. I'll increase the balance, and we see the result turned out okay. Now, entering the mask editor, I see the problem here. From this mask editor. Well, so I'll do it. What? I'll change my generator type. For example, I set it metal edge. I'll increase the grunge a bit. I'm shrinking the skill grunge. And his education level, duration. How many? We reached this conclusion. So, I considered such a basis here. Okay, I'm coming. Actually, adding dirt layer here. Now he added it. And I can, actually, control the dirt level. I can adjust its opposite until I reach my goal. Well, I'll take on more dirt level. That's such a thing. I draw and then come here to make an impact. Well, this is my base layer. So, I create another folder named cover layer. Well, for the cover layer, I've prepared some smart materials for you in the zip file next to the tutorial for download. You can have this smart material by just clicking and dropping it into the cover layer. Well, you see it comes and settles on the whole thing. Well, the point is, since we don't want any trace of the underlayer in the cover layer, we must go to the cover layer folder, make it red here, and set the blending mode of all data channels to normal. Let's not see any underlayer data on the cover layer. Well, now let's look at that mask we wanted to make. We're making a black mask here, as you see, showing the underlayer. Now, we can lighten the underlayer a bit here. Let's explore metal and slightly brighten the advanced parameters color. Let's clarify how our base looks now. What's it like without base? Well, that's it for now. Now, I'll add a generator here. I use metal edge in the generator too. But now my mask works oppositely, so it's like we have cover on the edges. In other parts, we have underlayer. I should click invert here. So, as you see, we reach something like this. Well, I'm here working with parameters. For example, I apply edge smooth. Can I use ambient occlusion masking here? Can I lower the grunge scale? So our grunge grows bigger. Make the detail unique. As you can see here. Work with a smooth edge circuit. What I want to do here is, durate add a fill layer. Let me load a grunge here. For example, grunge. Hey, what's up? And maybe increase its tiling. For example, set it to 2. I'll change its projection type. Tried planar like this. And lower the balance a bit. Well, now I'll turn on the speaker. See, we use this mask. Are we here already? I set it to linear mode. I mean, in these dark parts, that's on the edges. Let me add some extra info. Like this, actually. Being generative. And being computerized. The mask on the edges fades. Well, like this then. This is before we put on this mask. That's it. See, much more natural. Now, what I want to do is this. Actually, load other maps here. So as to, scratch effect on surface 2, have it. Well, first thing I'll add here. Actually, map scratch rough. I'll set its highest mode first. Why subtract? Because if we go here, we can see we want. This map is black and white. Let our base decrease. So we can remove scratches from the surface. Let's see if we can do this easily. Let's do it here. Then, I'll increase its tiling number and I'll adjust the settings. Reach my desired result. Well, the result. Considered something like this. As you see, we've got scratches here. That makes it much more natural. I'll come back here to add another grunge, named Paint Scratch. And I'll put it on subtitle mode again. Well, first of all, I'm increasing the tiling here. There's a mode called random mode. I'll activate it. I'll lower the balance a bit. Until I reach this conclusion here, and if I return, we see some details added here. Well, very good. What just happened? This is my base. I came with its underlayer. And I merged. Now, what you can do. So, let's discuss the issues. Add a pave layer. And start painting, for example, in some parts manually. Add or remove. That makes it more natural. Your work really helps. Alright, let's move on. I'm adding another folder. I'll name it Steel Bars. I'm coming back again. Smart Material Steel. I'm using the library's printer, and I'll put it in this folder. I'll change the steel's color. Hope no issues arise here. The result turns out like this. And still, we don't want to. Something from earlier layers. Yet in this folder, we apply normal mode here. Just that simple. The only thing is, check it. In the piston layer. In every folder. Keep it bright to hide details of previous layers. Duration. 7 seconds. Word count. 8. Well, I'll come here, add a black mask, add a paint, and go into. I start using the polygon fill tool to select the parts one want, completely bright steel. Well, I did this as you can see, the parts that, it's white now, the parts we wanted to look steel like there. It exists, and this is the result. Well, we can see the difference here. Totally clear. Okay, that's done. What's next? A smart one. I've set aside other materials, including that smart metal material, for you. Let's create a folder named Orange Side here. Let's mark the orange parts here. I'll add the material. See that? We have a plastic material here for our orange parts. What are the orange parts? They're the parts we want to highlight. Let's mark it clearly. An orange cover is drawn around our underlayer. So, I come here, apply a black mask, add paint again, and start selecting. I want those parts to have the orange color. For example, the button here, I want it orange. Here, these steel bars are attached to the main model for emphasis. I want it orange. These parts should fully have this orange material like this. I want this middle part to be orange too. And these inner parts should also be orange. So, I'll choose these two. Well, as we saw, the material design is done now. Well, the other part left is actually these upper cables. I'll create a folder here named Cables. I come to this folder, add a mask, and select all these cable parts. And for these cable parts, I don't want specific details yet. I just come here to pick a color, say, and name it Cable 1. It's crucial to activate all channels on Cable 1. Hit loudness mode here on normal and apply to all channels. So, no effect from our previous layers here. Well, what I do is assign an orange color to the first layer of cables. For the second layer, I'll choose red, and then I'll define a mask for it. And for example, I choose this model. To actually have red in my cables, I can add any model, pattern, decal, text, or anything to these cables. Let's get the white cable. Duration. 3.5, and my election color becomes this. Well, the cables seem okay here, no need for more details. If we want, we can add more details. Well, we can almost say our text sharing part ends here. Why say our text sharing ends here? Look, this is the place we're using the symmetry method. When we come and add some details to the work, as an example, we'll face issues in other parts. Well, this number, is that right? It's clearly based on 7, but this isn't clear on his face, and we can't add this model detail to Pinterest. And for this, we consider another method. Next step. Create a mask for light areas. So, I want to specify in Pinterest now. Where should my material or model be illuminated? This is very easy with a filter, choosing emissive. And placed it on white. Giving a black mask. And the process of selecting parts one want. Which are these thin strips between panels? And places like around buttons, I'll do, just a few points, before I pause the video, and do the masking. I must tell you here. First point, because this place should shine. And we'll turn this light on and off. It's not logical when our light goes out. Let's see the metal part. Best to turn on all channels for the light part, and then color, height, rafting, metallic, normal, be here by default, and set its blending mode to normal, which causes when our light goes out, we shouldn't see this metal part here. I pause the video. I'm doing the layered task and will return to my path. Well, I placed layer light here and, as you see, defined my mask too. Where do I want that light and emissive effect? A very important point is joining the MCIF channel. We need such a combination, meaning our overall background must be black, in AMCIF channel and places we want white color. The reason for this black and white is we want to use this map as a mask, and have the ability to change the color of glowing parts in Unreal ourselves. Alright, let's continue the story. I create a folder named Details for my work, and in these details, I'll add my detail layers. They only have data, and I consider negative and positive for these layers. That layer named -1, I call it detail negative, the one I hit, detail it. And now, based on the detail type, whether raised or recessed, I'll divide it into these layers. Well, I'll add the black mask here. And my work starts here. I might have several positive details. I might have several negative layers. My first detail layer will happen in these parts. So, what I do is select these parts. So my detail range is clear. Then I'll add a fill layer and gradient here. Now, I'm increasing the gradient's tiling. It's like this here. And finally, I set its blending mode to multiply. I control the tiling part, until the details are clear here. I'm returning to the layer. And what's clear here is I managed to implement my details. I'll reduce its intensity a bit, and now I've added the details I wanted here. Let's discuss negative detail. For negative detail, I want these panels. Take a stance like adding. So, I'll first choose my base. And then I add another elephant. And I search circle. And finally, I add this circle pattern here. And I set the speaker to multiplayer mode. I'll increase the tiles, and I'll extend this ballet's tail, until I reach that the skill I want to achieve. Well, everything here is okay now. Just mark the normal intensity here. I think this is enough for me. Well, now, almost the details I wanted are added. Now, among tiny details like rivet spots, screw, and details of the hard surface I can add. Apply it here. I'll create a new layer for this. I'll call it D negative, and I give a block mask, and I choose heights here. And I'll rate negative, I'll duplicate it, I'll call it D+, and I'll torment him. And now in my library, I'll come and load the desired alphas. I put these alphas with smart materials. In the Zabakian art training file, I've shared it. We input these. We can also texturize. Let's add these to the project. Well, these are the points here. Now, what I'm doing, this negative detail, duration, I'm adding a point, and then I enter paint mode, and in the section, grayscale, I'll have my chosen alphas, and then just wait, increase the hardness of alphas, and I'll start adding these details, the place I mean. I'll explain to make it natural. Definitely use the control. Banana moves downward. Duration, use it upwards. To add rotation to your cartoon, that feels much more natural. It seems so. Based on Middleton scale too. Definitely check these sizes, control it. I feel this size. It's the right size. Just because it's intense now, Way too much. That's why our detail isn't clear. I'll return here for your measures. I'll reduce it slightly. Well, just like this. From these details here, I have my details. I'll add to the list. After we added these, let's move to the final stages and output. Well, the details I could add here, just as you see. I placed the alphas where I wanted. And now, I can easily come here and check. And control its intensity. I'll keep this number. And instead of increasing your numbers, I'm using another filter. In Pinder app, in the name, your height is normal, allowing me to generally control normal intensity first. And finally, convert all added project data into normal information. We need to prepare a layer, just one layer of edge, focusing more on these detail edges. Duration, 14.4 seconds. Word count, 15. Rate, approximately 1.04 words per sec. And for this, I need to come here into my detail folder, add a paint layer, and name it Edge Plus. Finally, create a layer named Dirt and another named Edge. I'm turning off Edge. I'll add a black mask. And this black mask adds a generator. Before we move on, our Edge Plus layer, I'm switching to landing mode. And right-click to apply to all channels. Now, all info on D plus and D negative comes here, gathers, and then I can via an anchor point. All the information gathered here, used in my generators. Well, I come here to macro height, and I'm loading Edge Plus. I set reference channel to height mode, and I switch to macro detail and enable macro detail height, just as you see. Now, all the details I entered here came and joined. Duration. Now, what I'm doing, I select the layer myself. I'll apply base color. I choose a dark brown. Duration. Free point. I turn on raffines and metallic like this, because we're adding weight. And that's actually the layer being added, and no metallic surface. So, I'll activate my metallic layer and put on table. And for rafting, about half. Or we can go for the 80s. Very good. I'll be back home. And here I start controlling my own details. Can I increase the contrast? Can I make grand scale smaller? High intensity, creature intensity, hey, ridiculous, hey, wait up. And other control details I can see. Choose and add here. Well, this is an overview. What I do here. And the color opacity level. I'll reduce it like this. I'll watch them a bit. Toward the darker side. And I can get Musk himself. Just a bit stronger. Duration, see let, alright? Let's move to Izzy. I'll do the same for Is. A residential age generator, metal age generator, and finally, on the part. I'll come by later here. I'm adding age black. I hit general reference on height. I'm turning on macro detail and height. And as you see, my edge, this was selected and highlighted. Well, I can hear. Actually, I'll control whirl will. Can I see your high depth? Let me clarify here. Evo radius and other stuff. That directly affects the result. Our mask, direct study. Well, checking the mask. Very good. Now what I'm doing. That's why I want color. I want varnish and also metallic. I can bring metallic up. Can I darken this color? Take the razor and a bit more varnish. Duration. 3.5. Well, this is ours, without these two layers. And this is our juice after adding. These two layers are much better. And it's clearer. It shows we can relax here. I understand the topic. Now that these are added, when I come here, I'll add a layer. Named effect. Set blending mode to post. Should I apply? Add a filter. First, I want to add the sharpen filter. With a number like 2500K, like this, I can reduce it. 10 seems suitable too. And then I add another filter. In your name, you're normal. And here, I set word unit to false. And normal intensity. And I consider a number like 2. The difference in our details, without your normal, and our details after adding height to normal. This is completely clear. And as you see, there's a big difference. When using normal height, duration, or for example, I'll come here for your numbers. We increase more. This mode uses normal height. It has much better stuff, and much better, prettier. We handle the details. These are the details. And finally, for the final touch, to avoid this stiffness, sharp. Let's get out, duration. 2. We can use a new filter. Let's use Pin Editor software. In the name of anisotropic Kobahana, that feels a bit off. Surprisingly, to our work, adds our details. Cute little one, for touch. I'll be back soon. Cover layer, 1. I'm adding a fill layer. Color gradient, 1 color. Black for him, please. A black mask, adding a generator named 3D linear, and mask it, invert now. I balance and control contrast. I want this mask at night. Let's study. I want about half. This affects education. My mask increases with this. It's colored too. Duration, I see it darker. A kind of gradient tone. It's all bad. I can manage. Bring the balance up. Like this, if we go inside. Channel Rengi's education. We see much clearer. Now, reduce its opacity. I think studying is wiser and gentle. Well, overall, our sharing phase now. The Painter software is done. Now, details like numbers, logos and labels to place. Later in Unreal, another way, we're adding it. I want to do it here. Let me prepare my track. To export my stuff. I'll do it, just as you see. I have 2 diffuser tanks now. I have 2 normal tickets and 2 others. I'm joining the channel. Alpha is wounded, but I have 2 of each. Because I used Udemy. And now in Unreal, somehow, we can bring these textures directly and using it on Pinterest. Done. Now, onto Unreal, and start setting up our material in Unreal. Let's continue our process in the software. Unreal, I created a full, safe iBox tutorial, and now, I'll import my model. I'm heading to the saved model path, and I click Open, in this window. In the Material section, select the Import Material option, I'll activate it, and in the Texture section, the Import Texture option, I'll deactivate it, because I want manual input software. Let's do it. He came in here for me, added to my scene. I do, this is my style, and when I open it, can I get all details? Look here, we've got an entrance. We have material, my model, Nanite has arrived, and here, specifications of this model. Duration, now it's time for tasks. I'll join in here, I select this port. I'm taking the exit route. And I enter these. Let's choose all these, just the first shot. We choose from each category, meaning 1001 diffuse, 1001 normal, 1000 burdens. We select it and hit open. Here, for us, it's like, automatically, I understand. Can these be copies? It's YouTube, actually. Virtual texture loads. And we can use these textures, which was made using Udemy here. You might ask about this difference. With our usual state, let's go for different parts. We consider various models in material. What? You consider it. That's a big model. Is this model 5 or 6? Different materials or UV space. It varies, and for each UV space set, duration, you look different now. Here's what happens. You're in second mode. You must create 6 materials. 6 different types of texture. Manage it separately. But in eudaimonia state, do you have virtual texture? Isn't it for this task? Duration, you have a material. You manage a set, duration. And that's it, that's all. This is me using Unreal. I use 5 and 6. If you're in an Unreal, duration, using an older one, definitely come to the section. Project settings, search section. Right, virtual texture, enable the options here. In the virtual texture section, you must choose enable. Enable virtual texture support. Do the same for light map. And for other things too. Turn on and use. Especially if you're in your tasks. Do you have capacity? Definitely enable this option. Well, now that we've imported the tech, time to start building. Material, I'm a simple material. I'll build here then. Duration, I create an instance named this. Material instance, I open my main material, and these 3 shirts, I'm entering here. Just one thing I forgot to mention. That's your focus. Double-click warm, and here, select sRGB, turn it off then. You're choosing. Why this option? Are you turning off? I'm here for texture work on every black and white texture. For Ravenst, for metallic, for Envinclogen, you must do this. Okay, I'll return here to the material section and input these sets. We're not diving deep into shader creation in Unreal Engine, and we want a very simple material. I have a sample text here. I connect it directly to the base color. I have a normal that I can directly connect to another duration, and I have a texture in every color channel. A special map was saved. Well, what I must do here, here's me giving R to NB inclusion. Give G to Ravenst. Give B to metallic. And for alpha, which is my own emissive map, consider a structure to adjust the emission intensity in Unreal. And set the emission color. I must define a very simple structure here. I hold M and click. One more time, I'll make two multipliers, and we implement the structure like this. We say map emissio comes to the first multiplayer. I hold the S button and add a parameter to my material. And I'll name it emission intensity. I set its intensity to 1 by default, and I connect it to my B input. And then for the next B input, which means the multiple we come and define the color, I'm holding the V key, which we call, say, light color. And I'll set its default color to black. If my model in materials, duration, approximately it had color shading, not normally on. And I define the style and color myself. This way, I'm relieved. Regarding events in material, well, this simple definition connects to emissive color. I hit save. An important point exists, that's why we only have one model. We don't need to change the tasks, but overall, we can choose these options, convert them to parameters, and let's name it base color. Hey, what's up? And ORM, duration. And finally, choose any star, set its group to input. And here, we set sampler source to option 2. For these parameters too, we consider a group named text parameter, and so easily we manage our material. Let's manage, and in my viewport, and as you see, my material fits perfectly, sitting perfectly fine, and see UDI easily applied on Unreal model. Now, if I open the material instance, we see our parameters are clear here. Could I come here? Choose light color. For example, I set a direct and I set its intensity to 10. And as you see, we managed to set our emissive color. Let's define it. So, I'm here changing the color, and as you see, this color is it's controllable, even intense. Likewise, we can adjust intense, completely control it. Now it's my turn. Let me describe an animation. Duration, I want a mask. Apply the gradient here. Luminous strips. Direct move badly, this move. That I'm doing here. This gradient creates duration, turn off this blowing strip. And some parts stay bright. And with this gradient's movement, I made an animation, duration. I'll fix it here. Let's do this together. For this task first, duration, I need to. My mood, AUV channel, keep it separate for these bright parts. Unlike channel 1, we completed the entire texturing we did it specifically for these tapes. And the UV layout type, it's become natural. We're back in 3ds Max for UV process. You can do everything directly. Do it in Max software, but I find Resume software easier. That ID I want in UVs, I'm much faster, let it happen sooner. Well, I select edit here. I'll sign it. The model opened in Resume software. Just see, a UV channel exit, and I'm creating a new UV channel here. Hey, what's up? And on this UV channel too, what I do is this. UV channel 1 info, I'm copying. Well, now what I'm doing. This is why I'm here. Duration, I choose my bright parts like this. Since this part is UVC, I need to cut these. I'll briefly explain this here, pausing the video. I'll show you the final UV and we'll start working in Unreal. Let me show you what's planned for this part. Well, we don't need any of these UV islands, so we can easily shrink all this like this. And let's leave this here. All we want to do with these light strips, well, I need to attach these glowing strips together. Why'd I want this attachment? Duration 4.06. Because our task is simple. We have a white line here, and we want to move it like this. I must place the UVs of these glowing strips linearly here, so I can create my animation with this white strip moving on this line. So, I split my UVs to avoid animation glitches. Well, my UV is fixed now. I'm fixing it exactly. Where does it start and end? Now, that white strip I'll define in the material. It starts moving here. Comes forward, lighting my animation here. Duration 4.9 seconds. I pause the video and set up my UV here, and then we continue the process. Well, the UV island sorting process is done for me, and as you see, I've highlighted the bright parts. I chose and arranged it this way. This back and forth of UV islands relative to each other. It causes my light animations start and end, in every part of these lines together. Be different, meaning the light animation starts earlier here, and it starts later here. Now, if I want to start and end these together, their start and end should match these tapes here. Be the same. Now, what I'm doing is saving this model, launching Unreal software. And we'll move to material processing and finish it there. I re-import the model into Unreal. And I'll try to add new model info here. Now, when I open Moodle, I'm checking the UV section, seeing a UV trip. That's for my texturing process. And I have a UV1. What's being shown to me here? Same UV for animation lights. Alright, let's move to the material part. I need a grandstand for this technique. You can directly in Unreal. Create shaders in Unreal. Duration. Free point, you can use Photoshop or anywhere else. Build this texture. I did this in Photoshop. And I enter my password. Create an unlit UV for this texture. I need to add the texture coordinate here. And definitely set the coordinate index to 1. So, I'll use the new UV I made for this model. And then I'll bring a notepad. Who's supposed to assign me the animation task? Let's connect them like this. Adding an append vector node here. I hold key 1 and tell a single value in parameter with default value 0. And I hold the S key. Let me add a parameter. A single parameter. I'll name it speed. And I set its value to 0 by default. And I give it to A. Everything we wanted is done. Now, if I click this preview option, you can see this texture gradient here. Now, if I set speed to 1, you can see it moving. What does this mean? This means I'm now on those linear tapes. Can I have a simple animation as a banner? Well, now what to do? So, I'll connect this to that. A system for light intensity here. And consider the light colors. For this, I'll use a node liner. I use linear interpolation or LERP. What I do is assign my emissive map to A. So any effect applies to map A finally. I ensure LERP and the effect only occur where I've specified. So, exactly that mask emission we must give to alpha, and finally, the RGB output of this texture sample can be given to B and connected to multi. Well, that easily, we've created an animation for this part. I'll set it to 0 and select this too. I click Groove on Parameters and hit Save. We're back here. We open our material instance and finally enable white here. Turn up the intensity and increase the white level more. Well, what's happening here is we're watching animation, right? But I still can't control where it's off or on and how much. To control this processor, I can easily come here, add a few nodes after this texture sample and before this layer. First is the 90 multiplayer, so I can come and control this gradient's intensity. I'll come here, set a parameter named thickness, and assign it a value, keeping it at 1 for now. And then I add a power node to control the contrast and gradient here. So, I'll add another parameter called contrast and set its default value to 1. Now our gradient goes from left to right. Maybe we'll change its direction. For this, we can add a node 1, a switch parameter node, and place an invert mask here. If invert is true, if not false, then add to B. Well, that easily, we created a simple structure for our animation. I hit save. First, let's ensure the group has these parameters. Everyone, stay within the parameter, alright? I'll check my material instance. First, I have an invert mask that I can invert, and you see the result here. Contrast and thickness parameters added. I'm reducing the thickness. Should I increase the contrast too? As you see, we've controlled this animation's display here. Now, to see what's happening here more clearly, we must return to Painter software, where we defined set its base color to full problem mode. I re-export it. And then I return to Unreal software. Select these three, right-click, and I click on Re-import. Well, now we can better see where my lights are off or on. Now I can increase the thickness, like this, and we can control its speed here. And this event and animation occur in all the parts we defined. And here's how to add animation for glowing parts. The only trick here was using the second channel to define this mask on the emissive part. Well, that's the main material section. Now, let's add decals, labels, and extra details to our model. I'll return to Trades Max software. For the luminous part, labels and decals, I use a technique called trim label. This trim label technique involves adding all desired labels and materials onto an image. Duration. 8 seconds. Then we add very simple planes to our model as decals. So, what situation does this give us? It gives us freedom to easily add any detail we want to our model, without getting into which UV system model was used. And the next point in this method, we can maintain our writing quality at the highest level. It can really help us with high quality work. Well, you can build this texture, or you can download online. I've included this texture with other resources in the zip file. What we'll do next here is very simple. Let's draw a plan, and then attribute this discovery to ourselves. Now, what we must do. This is the part we want to separate. For example, I want to separate this number 7 now. All I need to do is detach. Hit the pivot on center, and use this select and place method to place this plane on my level. And finally, just adjust its rotation, and barely lift off, like this. And finally, I attach these planes to the main model, and I take it into Unreal. And there, I'll show you how to prepare this material in Unreal. Right now, I just need to plan my ideas. Here in TRE Max software or any other modeling software we have, let's spell in our model. Well, placing planes on the object is done for me, and as you see, I've added various details to different parts. It could have had much more variety. It could have been more precise. But this is enough for me here. Let me tell you something right here. I came from the surface and extracted the layer below. What does this mean? If I choose modal here, for example, I want to consider a detail here. Just coming here, for example, should I choose this part? Let me ditch here, as a clone. And finally, this cloned object, duration, I'll exaggerate a bit. In the normal direction of that page, with a very low number, I control and delete. So this page moves slightly away from the main base. And finally, I give him my chosen material. Now, I'm entering the modifier Unwrap, UV Editor, and here, I select the map option, but I'll share my opinion here. For instance, in this part, I'll keep this detail. Well, it needs a rotation. Like this. Very impressive if we see it's mirrored. We can use this tool to fix the mirror issue. And finally, I don't need this part, and I can easily erase it, and so easily, I can handle such details myself. Add it. So, how can we import this into Unreal software? To avoid any issues, I choose the main box. I'll attach these decals, and now I have a model with 2 material IDs. Well, I'll export this model, and I enter Unreal software, and just re-import my model. Well, as you see, we must now use these model pages. Let's give him material. Well, what I do here, I'm entering my codes here, and finally, a material here for me. I'll build and name it, Master Material Deck, Duration, and I create an instance from it. And I'll name this instance, Material Instance Label, and I open the Static Mesh Editor. And this Material Instance Label, I'll give it here. Now, all I must do, that's why I bring my main material, and enter the codes here. Since these will be recited, sit on the model, I must choose the main material. In the material domain, put it on the divider, duration, and then set it on mode, translucent, duration. Now I can easily vase color. I doubt it. Adjust the opacity. Should I consider it normal? Ambient occlude ravens. And attribute metallic here. I'll save here and return to the scene. And as you see, we've got all labels, and we entered the details we wanted here. Interesting point is that, the more you focus here, duration, freeze, their quality won't fade, and that's a very important point. For very important sites, such labels like these, watch over them. Well, the problem is this, so this doesn't happen. I totally get you. I'll turn this off. And as you see, here's our material design. Do it correctly. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new. Please share your opinions with us and don't forget, follow us, stay safe, God bless.